A lot of emails asking what is actually the TK, that is diabetes ketoacidosis.
Yeah.
Can you tell us the symptoms of it and how do you deal with it?
Diabetic ketoacidosis generally occurs when the patients, it occurs in type 1 specifically. In these patients, the sugar values are quite high. As the sugar values are high and the body is not able to metabolize the glucose and use it for its function, it starts metabolizing fat. As it starts metabolizing fat, it starts producing ketones, which are excreted out to the urine and even to the lungs. So this typically gives a fruity odor to the breath. If you find a child who is totally dehydrated, who is absolutely looking fatigued, who is asthenic, a little labored breathing, the ketones, there are home tests available for urine ketone testing. If that is positive, and the blood sugars are very high, this usually indicates to ketoacidosis.
Why is it life-threatening, doctor?
This is a metabolic acidosis, so a lot of changes take place in the body. Again, you're very susceptible to infections during this stage, and that is why you have to be very, very careful. The child definitely needs to get admitted in case the sugars are very high. Control of sugars along with correction of electrolytes is again very important in these cases.
Doctor, this thing about being prone to infection
yes,
is quite an issue, because this time we are having a cover story on TB and diabetes.
Yeah.
Now it is known that diabetes can cause TB and TB can cause diabetes.
It's not cause, but both of them make each other susceptible. Yes.
Okay, doctor. Now, when you talk about diabetic foot, what are the symptoms that people have to look for? Because it's a very tricky area. It's not like kidney or eyes where things are much simpler. Here it's almost impossible to figure out if somebody has neuropathy or not.
Yes. A very simple statement. The first thing that I tell a new patient of mine is that as you get up in the morning and you look at your face, before going to bed, look at your feet. It is very, very important to see that you have not got hurt anywhere. It's very easy to have a small ulcer, a small pinprick, a small thorn which has gone into your foot and you not realize it. The most common symptoms that people face are something like tingling numbness, something like burning feet, bony aches, or mild sensory loss. There might be a feeling where the balance or the postural balance is hampered. So then again, these are a few symptoms which are because of diabetes neuropathy. Again, this is more common in people who are alcoholic, people who are smokers. They are more common to neuropathies as compared to the others, rest of the public. If your HbA1c is very high, 7, 8 and above, then your chances of getting neuropathy are again very common. So these patients have to be evaluated every year irrespective of their diabetic status.
Now, doctor, when you talk about problems related to the diabetic foot, when you have problems and when there is danger of losing a feet in terms of amputation,
right,
where is the cutoff point for the doctor? Where does he say that this cannot be treated at all?
There are two aspects for this. One is if the person is having a frank gangrene. Okay, what we are doing by keeping the limb, salvaging the limb, is only getting the rest of the part in trouble. So in case if you feel that we can make do with a small amputation and save the limb, that is the first chance that the doctor takes. If the bone is severely involved, again there is no two doubts about it, but that has to go, that part has to go. Every doctor will try and salvage the limb. There is no doctor who wants to amputate because rehabilitation is difficult. Again, when it's a life-threatening situation, I would prefer having a life rather than a limb. So again, that is where the demarcation point comes in. Certain people have very low blood supply to the feet. So even if it is not even if it is not infecting the bone, there are times that you have to do debridements. Even if debridement fails, then we have to amputate further.
Doctor, there are lots of surgeons who say that amputation of feet actually puts a lot of pressure on the heart, and the patient may not live for long because of the impending heart attacks, because a part of the body is cut off.
That is, no, it's not because the part of the body is cut off. More commonly it is because probably the patient is a smoker. Just as there is a hardening of the arteries in his legs, there are hardening of the arteries in his heart. So the blood supply, as it is reduced to the feet, it will be reduced to other parts of the body. So there are more chances that these people might have paralysis or strokes, or these people might have heart attacks. So that is how you will end up in problems.
And doctor, what are the treatments available for diabetic foot now?
My aim is to prevent it rather than treat it.
Okay.
In the initial stages, it is recoverable. There are a lot of medicines to improve the blood supply as well as to improve the nerve supply to the feet. Most of these patients are deficient in nutrition, and simply supplementing with nutrition also helps a lot. There are medications available to reduce the amount of symptoms, improve the quality of life. But the first and the foremost thing that a doctor has to tell the patient is that finally his feet are in his hands. So if he is going to take care of his feet, everything else can be prevented very easily. In a country like ours, where everybody removes the chappal before going into mandir or temples or churches, it is very easy to get a small ulcer which is going to escalate into a big problem later on. So every day you have to check your feet, wear proper footwear. Footwears are not available again very easily to the people, or not at affordable cost. But it is easier to invest in one good footwear rather than having to spend later on a lot on the doctors and the surgeons.
Very true. One of our doctors, Dr. Chadda was saying treatment of diabetes should be considered as insurance premium. Because it will avoid all the future.
True. You end up spending a lot otherwise.
Very true. Doctor, when you raised a very interesting issue of nutrition helping to prevent and as well as treat diabetic.
Yes.
What would be that nutrition for diabetics?
Most of the patients are deficient in vitamin B12. Nowadays, vitamin D is also again another factor which is causing a lot of health problems, health issues, especially in diabetics. So these supplementations are very, very important. There are other mechanisms. The body gets when a person has diabetes, a lot of changes take place in their body. Okay. So every organ is going to get affected at some point or the other. What we need to do is we need to take care of the diabetes in such a way that his rest of the enzymatic systems become normal. There are a lot of metabolizations or mitochondrial metabolizations which take place in the body, and these are hampered because of diabetes, because of hyperglycemia per se. So now we need to supplement them. Again, there are certain medications like metformin, which is the basic metformin that is given to most of the people. This again causes vitamin B12 deficiency. There are certain medications like alpha glucosidase inhibitors, which hinder the nutrition absorption. So again, we are going to land up in problems there. Most of us get infected sometime or the other, so we take a lot of antibiotics. So again, the bacterial flora gets affected. So in all of these cases, we have to supplement with the nutrition.
Doctor, in terms of natural resources of B12 or all those nutrition that is required for diabetic foot, what would they be? What would be the natural?
Most of the B12 comes from non-vegetarian items. So in a country like ours, where there are a lot of fast and where half the people are vegetarian, these people end up with B12 deficiency is very common. Vitamin D deficiency, if you're asking, you do get vitamin D from sunlight, but in a place like ours, especially like Bombay, where there is polluted sun and hardly any sun rather, and you sit in the offices from morning till night, there is no sunlight. So you're not going to get vitamin D. These things are easier supplemented than tested and tried and try and get it from the natural sources. Again, milk is a good source for calcium as well as vitamin D. For absorption of calcium per se, also you require vitamin D in your gut.
Incidentally, doctor, there was a recent report which said that vitamin D and diabetes have a direct link.
Absolutely.
Okay, doctor, what about walking and exercising? How much does that help in controlling diabetic foot?
Diabetic foot. Okay. Lifestyle modification is the first thing that you have to do for every diabetic, whether he is type 1 or whether he is type 2.
Sure.
Reports have shown that neuropathy improves actually by walking. So if a patient neuropathy is pain in the legs. So when a patient is lying down, especially in the night, and he starts having pain, he walks a little bit and it improves. The neuropathy comes down. These are the symptoms that many patients will tell you. So this shows that there is microcirculation to the nerves which is improved while walking. Any kind of exercise is going to improve your circulation, and this will just help you to be a little better. So neuropathy, diabetes itself will come down if you exercise regularly. So once the diabetes comes down, even the neuropathy comes down.
Doctor, you treat so many patients, hundreds of them for diabetic foot as well as diabetes. Now, do you also believe that type 1 diabetics always have microvascular and type 2 have microvascular?
No, I believe both of them have both.
True. There are lots of diabetologists now say the confusion is, it's all confused.
It's not really that way. It's not really
black
that
and
way.
white